The world tilted sideways me this Jack. You owe me every square inch of this place. She was gripping the portafilter. The one I'd made by hand, both our names carved into the steel. The world tilted sideways and worn smooth from 4 years of morning shots. And holding it between us like a brick she hadn't decided whether to throw or keep. The world tilted sideways and she dropped that same handle into a sink full of cold grounds on her way out the door, calling it a filthy thing she wouldn't need for a while. Now here she was, the white knuckled around it in my roastery in a coat that cost more than my first car, shaking from somewhere deeper than anger. I didn't move. The grinder was still humming behind me. The world tilco mechanical growl that's been the background noise of my whole adult life. The world tilted sideways, and I just stood there watching the woman I was supposed to marry scream at me like I was the one who'd done something wrong. The world tilted sideways. That's all it had been 6 months since she'd walked out of this exact room with her chin up and her sunglasses on. The world tilted sided break from commitment. Like commitment was a diet she was going off for summer. 6 months since she'd told me without a hint of shame. The world tilted sideways and I'd keep paying the mortgage and keep her name on the business while she went and lived a completely different life in Sydney with people I'd never met and never would. And now here she was. The world tilted sideways back in old Bellbird Creek in the shop I built with money I didn't have and hands that still ache some mornings, screaming about ownership like she'd never left at all. The world tilted sideways. I want to tell you what it's like to watch someone unravel in real time, mate, because until you've seen it you don't believe it's possible. You think people fall apart quietly. They don't. The world tilted sideways. Sometimes they fall apart the loudest they've ever been in their life, right in front of the espresso machine. The word of a barista who's 24 and terrified and holding a rag like it might protect her. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. The world tilted's Jack Smith. I roast coffee for a living out here on the edge of Melbourne where the suburbs give up trying to be a city and the air starts smelling like eucalyptus instead of exhaust. The words, my hands are always a little burnt, always a little stained from green beans and the oil that comes off them once they hit 200 degrees. The same pair of Blundstones every single day. They're worn through at the heel now, soft as an old glove. And I've got this habit, when I'm thinking something over. The world tilted sideways, tapping the toe of my boot against the step out front of the shop. Charlotte used to say it drove her mad. She used to say a lot of things drove her mad actually. I should have paid closer attention to the pattern. The world engaged on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are roasting days and I proposed with coffee still under my fingernails, which she laughed about for a week afterward, in the good way. The world tilder still was a good way. She was 28 then, sharp and funny and restless in a way I mistook for ambition. I made her a portafilter. Wood and steel. The world tilted sideways, both our names engraved into the metal band where your thumb sits, not something you buy, something I made, hunched over a workbench for 3 nights running until the letters sat right. The lived on the machine every single day after that. Every long black, every flat white. The world, every terrible batch of practice lats I made when I was first learning to pour. That handle was in my hand for all of it. The words, one evening in autumn, she sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where I do the books, and told me about Sydney. About a group of friends she'd met through a mutual acquaintance. People with harborside apartments and boats and a way of talking about money like it was oxygen. The world tilted sideways. She wanted to up and live among them for a while. Try it on, she said. See if it fit. I asked what that meant for us. She said it meant I'd keep paying off the house, obviously. The world tilted because selling it now would be stupid. And she'd keep her share of the roastery because she'd put money into it too, technically. The world, so she just needed some time to be somewhere else without any of that hanging over her. A pause, a trial. Nothing permanent, she said, just a season. The world you to understand something about me, mate, because it matters for everything that comes after. I'm not a man who begs, I never have been. So I didn't. I sat at that table. The word, I listened to her ask me to bankroll her holiday from our engagement, and I felt something in my chest go very quiet and very still, like a machine switching off. Within a fortnight I'd spoken to a solicitor. Within a month the paperwork was moving. The house going fully into my name, her share of the roastery bought out at a fair price. The world tilted account closed and split clean down the middle. I didn't do it out of spite. People think it was spite looking back, especially her. It wasn't. It was the plainest, the world tilted sideways, most obvious decision I've ever made. If she wanted to see whether another life fit her better, she could go and see. But she wasn't doing it on my back. The word before she left, she came into the shop to grab the last of her things. I watched her pick up the portafilter. Our portafilter. Hold it for a second like she might take it with her. The world tilted sideways. She dropped it into the sink, into a basin still full of old grounds and cold water, and she said, I won't be needing to touch this filthy thing for a while. Filthy thing. The world tilted sideways was the tool she was leaving behind. Like it wasn't the one object in this whole shop that had both our names on it. I fished it out after she'd gone, dried it off, to put it back on the machine where it belonged. And then I didn't hear from her again. Not a text, not a call, not a single word for 6 months. The world tilted sideways round her absence, the way you build a life around anything missing, slowly, without noticing you're doing it, until one day it's just the shape of things. The world tilts us back to this morning. Back to her standing in my roastery with that coat and that fury, demanding her old life back like it was a coat check ticket she'd simply misplaced. The world tilted sideways. Here's the thing that stopped me cold, though. The thing that kept me standing there instead of throwing her out on the spot. It wasn't the yelling. Melbourne's seen plenty of yelling. The world tilted sideways. They were shaking. Not with rage, or not only with rage. There was something underneath it, something I hadn't seen on her face before, not once in 4 years together. The world Lady King had never in her life looked frightened. She looked frightened now, and for reasons I still can't fully explain to myself. The world tilted sideways. Standing there with the smell of burnt Arabica thick in the air and her knuckles going white around the handle she'd once thrown away. I didn't ask her to leave. I asked her what happened up there. The world tilted sideways. She didn't answer. She just held the portafilter tighter against her chest like it was the only solid thing left in the room. They looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen since the day I said yes to marrying her. Like she needed something from me she didn't have the words to ask for yet. I need my old life back, Jack. That's what came out instead of an answer. Not sorry, not I made a mistake. She said it the way you'd ask a bank teller to reverse a transaction. Like there was a form somewhere. That all she needed was my signature. Your old life? I said. This place. The house. All of it. She wiped under her eyes with the back of her wrist. The world tilted smudge whatever was left of her makeup. I know it sounds mad after everything, but I'm asking you to just undo it. Pretend the last 6 months didn't happen. The world tilted sideways. I felt something twist low in my gut, somewhere between disbelief and an old stubborn tenderness I thought I'd burned out of myself months ago. Charlotte, I sold your share of the business. The house is in my name only. There's nothing to undo. Then unsell it. She said it so plainly, so reasonably. The world tilted sideways. That for a second I actually understood how her mind worked. As if ownership were a light switch, and all she had to do was find the right hand to flick it. I went and got the folder from the office. The world tilted sideways, the one with all the settlement paperwork, 4 months of dates and signatures and a solicitor's letterhead, and I put it on the counter between us, open to the page with her own signature on it. She looked down at it like I'd shown her a photograph of a stranger. You did this without telling me, she said. I told you the day I did it. I called you. You didn't pick up. You were busy for 6 months. The world tilted sideways. Her jaw tightened, and for 1 second I saw the Charlotte I used to know, quick, cutting, already 3 moves ahead in an argument. But it didn't hold. The world tilted sideways. It slid straight back into something rawer, something closer to the surface than I'd ever seen on her. I don't have anywhere else to go, she said, quieter now. Do you understand that? I don't have a job. I don't have the deposit for a flat. Everyone up there, she stopped herself. Everyone up there what? Nothing, she straightened. The world to fold her shut like she was the one closing this conversation. I just need somewhere to work. Hewing what I used to do. Front of house, same as before. You don't even have to pay me properly, just let me back in. The world to be honest with you, mate, because there's no version of this where I come out looking clean if I pretend I felt nothing. Some ugly, tired, the words hidden love part of me heard, let me back in, and thought about 4 years of Sunday mornings, of her laugh carrying over the espresso machine, the life I'd built room for 2 people in and had been living in alone ever since. That part of me wanted to say yes. The world till I'd already spent 6 months learning how to live without needing her permission to breathe, that I wasn't about to hand that back over a folder full of remorse that had only shown up once the money ran out. No, I said. It came out steadier than I expected. It didn't feel steady inside. She laughed. Not a real laugh, the kind people use as a weapon. No. Right, of course. She looked around the shop at the chalkboard menu I'd redone myself, the row of green bean sacks stacked by the roaster, at Maya hovering by the till pretending very hard to be cleaning something that was already clean. You've replaced me already. Haven't you, Mia's staff, Charlotte, staff, she said the word like it tasted wrong. The world tilted. She's wearing the apron I picked out. I bought new aprons in March. It's the same color. I didn't have an answer for that because there wasn't one worth giving. This wasn't about aprons. The world tilted sideways. I'd known her long enough to recognize when a fight had stopped being about the thing it claimed to be about. She came around the counter then, actually came around. The world tilted sideways, into the space behind the machine that used to be as much hers as mine, and reached for the milk jug like her hands remembered the choreography even if the rest of her didn't belong there anymore. I put my hand on the counter, not touching her, just a line drawn in the air between us. Don't, I said. The were used to work this machine every single day. You don't work here anymore. Her hands started shaking again, the same tremor from before, and this time it broke all the way through. The world tilted sideways. She set the jug down too hard and it clattered against the drip tray, and she pressed both palms flat against the steel like she was trying to hold the whole bench still. The were understand what it was like up there, she said, and her voice had gone thin, stripped of all its earlier polish. The people I moved up for. They let me pay for everything for months. The world tilted to dinner. Every deposit on every stupid boat trip. They called it buying into the group, like it was a subscription. And then the second my card started declining, they stopped answering. The world tilted sideways. Every single one, Jack, in the space of about a fortnight. For a moment neither of us said anything. The grinder had gone quiet behind me. I could hear the fridge compressor ticking over. The world out on the street, a magpie going off at nothing. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said, and I meant it. God help me, I meant it. But that's not the same as this. That's not a reason to walk back in here and start dictating terms like you never left. It's not dictating terms, it's asking for help. You're not asking, you never ask. You tell me what I owe you. The world tilted something in her. Her face crumpled for half a second before she caught it and forced it back into something harder. Fine, she said. Fine, you want me to ask? I'm asking. Please, Jack. Please let me stay. Just until I sort myself out, a month. 2 tops. I looked at her, really looked. The world tilted sideways. The way you look at someone you loved for 4 years and are trying to work out whether the person standing in front of you still has any part of them left that you recognize. And I said the hardest true thing I think I've ever said to another person. The world tilted size right now. It's because I still love the version of you I got engaged to, not because of anything you've actually shown me today. She didn't reply to that. She turned away instead. The world tilted sideways and stood there with her arms wrapped around herself, looking out at a street she used to know every crack and gum tree of. The were, God love her, chose that exact moment to walk past with a tray of clean cups, and Charlotte spun back around like she'd been waiting for a target. You, she said. The long have you two been, Charlotte, don't. My voice came out sharper than I meant it to. I'm not asking him, I'm asking her. She stepped toward Mia, who froze mid-step. The world tilted cups rattling faintly on the tray. Are you sleeping with him? Is that what this is? You couldn't wait 6 bloody months. There's nothing going on between us, Mia said. The were enormous credit, her voice didn't shake even though her hands clearly wanted to. I just work here. You're wearing my apron. Charlotte, I came around the counter now. The world tilted sideways, not touching her but close enough that she had to look at me instead of past me. This has nothing to do with her. The world tilted her out of it. Why are you protecting her? Because she didn't do anything to you. You did this to yourself. The world tilted soften out before I could soften them, and I watched them land like a slap. Something in Charlotte's face went very still. The world terrible second. I thought she might actually cry. Properly cry. Not the performed kind from before, but something older and rawer underneath it. The world tilted sideways. That her hand shot out and swept a stack of takeaway cups off the counter, sent them skittering across the floor, a small avalanche of cardboard and lids. The world tilted sideways. You dare stand there and talk to me about what I did to myself? She said, and her voice had climbed into a register I genuinely never heard from her, not once in 4 years. The world tilted idea what I gave up coming back here. You have no idea what's waiting for me if I walk out that door with nothing. Then tell me, I said. Actually tell me. Instead of throwing cups. You wouldn't believe me, try me. The world tilted siphoning at me for a long moment, and something passed behind her eyes. Calculation maybe, or fear, or both, fighting each other for control of her face. And then she shook her head. The quick and hard, like she was shaking off the temptation to actually say it. Forget it, she said. Forget I came back at all. She grabbed her bag off the stool by the door. The were way past the counter, her hand closed around the portafilter. Our portafilter. Sitting in the drying rack where I'd left it that morning. She held it for a second. The world tilted sideways, thumb running over the worn engraving, and then instead of putting it down she pushed it into her coat pocket and walked straight out the door. The were in a shop full of scattered cups and cold coffee and the smell of burnt milk, with Mia quietly starting to sweep. The world tilted sideways, and I realized the one object in this entire building that actually meant something had just walked out the door in the pocket of a woman who 20 minutes earlier, the world I'd been certain I never wanted to see again. That night I got a call, not from Charlotte, but from her mother, Diane, a woman I'd always got on well with. The world tilt me a Christmas card every year even after the engagement fell apart. She sounded exhausted in a way I'd never heard from her before. She's not staying with us, Jack, Diane said. The world tilted. She hasn't been staying with anyone from what I can tell. I think she's sleeping in her car. The world tilted my eyes. Somewhere behind that sentence was an entire story I still didn't have. The world tilted sideways, fortnight or 6 months of something that had brought a woman who once wouldn't be seen dead, without her hair done to the point of stealing a coffee tool out of a shop she used to co-own. The world tilted sideways, I said. What happened up there? There was a long pause on the line, long enough that I could hear a kettle clicking off somewhere in her kitchen. I don't think it's my place, she said finally. But Jack, whatever you decide to do, the world, please don't let her go back to that car tonight. I hung up the phone and stood in my empty kitchen for a long while, turning that over. Somewhere out there, the world ex-fiancée was sitting in a car with a stolen coffee handle and a story she wouldn't tell me, and some idiot, the world tilted sideways, stubborn part of me that I couldn't quite kill off no matter how hard I tried, was already reaching for my keys. I found her Corolla parked 2 streets back from the shop, under a peppercorn tree, windows fogged. She'd won the seat back and had a picnic blanket pulled up over her knees, the world tilted sideways, the kind we used to take to the cricket. When I knocked on the glass, she didn't jump. She just looked at me like she'd been expecting it, rolled the window down 6 inches, and said nothing at all. The world tilted sideways. Didn't mine, I said. You're not sleeping out here. She didn't argue. That's how I knew how far gone she was. The old Charlotte would have argued on principle. I didn't take her home. The world took her to the shop, unlocked the roller door, put the heater on, and made 2 coffees I didn't charge her for. She sat on the stool by the till, still wrapped in that ridiculous coat, and finally, with nobody left to perform for and nothing left to lose, she told me. The world tilted sideways. The friends weren't really friends. They were a loose collection of people orbiting a man named Rhett, who ran what he called an investment collective, out of a Potts Point apartment. The world tilted sideways, the kind of setup where everyone's supposed to chip in and everyone's supposed to get out triple. Charlotte had put in almost everything she had, her half of the settlement money, most of it. The world tilted sideways, chasing a stake in some development that never existed past a rendering on somebody's laptop. She'd covered dinners for people who called her team, right up until the morning her transfer bounced. The world tilted sideways, and within a fortnight every single one of them had blocked her number. I told everyone at home I was living the life, she said, staring into her cup. I posted about it. The world tilted but to my own mother, Jack. I can't walk back into that house and tell her I lost it all to a man who sold protein shakes for a hobby. So you came here instead. The world tilted because this was the only place left where I still had a name on something. Her voice cracked on the word name, and I understood finally with a kind of tired clarity. The world tilted sideways, come in screaming instead of apologizing. Somewhere on the drive down from Sydney she'd decided that admitting she'd been wrong, about Rhett, about the friends, the warp out, all of it, was a door she genuinely could not make herself walk through. So she'd turned the shame into anger, because anger felt like something. The world tilted furious with me was so much easier than being ashamed of herself. I'm not proud of how I came in here, she said. I know how it looked. It looked like someone falling apart in front of a customer. Yeah, she almost laughed. That too. The world tilted sideways. I didn't forgive her in that moment, and I want to be straight with you about that, because there's a version of this story where I would have. The world tilted sideways, where the ache in my chest for the woman I once loved would have talked me into handing back the keys to a life she'd already proven she'd walk away from the second something shinier came along. That's not what happened. You can't work here, I said. And you can't stay with me. That door's shut. The world tilted shut since the day you dropped that portafilter in the sink like it was rubbish. She flinched at that, actually flinched. The world tilted sideways and reached into her coat pocket and set it down on the counter between us without a word. The one thing she'd taken, the one thing that still had both our names carved into it, the worn thin from 100 mornings. The world tilted sideways said. I watched her look up. There's a receptionist job going at Trentham's, the vet clinic 2 doors down. The world tilt Trentham owes me a favor from when I fixed his machine for nothing last winter. It's not glamorous. It pays about $55,000 a year. And you'd be answering phones about worming tablets and dog dissections. The world tilted sideways and has absolutely nothing to do with me. She stared at me like I'd offered her something in a language she used to speak fluently and had forgotten. The world tilted do that for me. Because you need somewhere to land that isn't a car, and it isn't going to be here. I turned the portafilter over in my hands, the world till finding the groove where the letters used to sit sharp and now sat soft, half erased by 6 months of other hands. This part of your life is finished, Charlotte, not because I hate you. The world tilted sideways, because it's just finished. You don't get your old chair back because you're sorry the new one turned out to be a con man's living room. The world tilted sideways. She didn't cry the way she had earlier, loud and performative. She just nodded slowly, like something heavy had finally settled into its right place, and picked up her coffee with both hands. I really am sorry, she said, for the cups. For all of it, for I know. Do you believe me? I believe you're sorry now that you've got nothing left to be proud instead, I said not unkindly. The worth that holds once you've got a wage coming in again. That's on you to prove, not me to promise. She stayed another 20 minutes, finishing her coffee in the quiet. The world tilted sideways. And then I drove her to a motel on the highway and paid for 3 nights out of my own pocket, and told her that was the last thing I owed her, financially or otherwise, and she didn't argue that either. The world tilted sideways. 6 weeks later I heard, secondhand from Bill Trentham himself when he came in for his usual flat white, that Charlotte had taken the job and that she was good at it. Good with the anxious owners. The world tilted sideways. Apparently unrecognizable from the woman who'd once needed an entire harborside social circle to feel like she mattered. I didn't go and check for myself, I didn't need to. The shop settled back into its rhythm the way shops do. Maya stayed on, got better at the machine every week, stopped flinching every time the door chimed. The portafilter went back into daily rotation because it still worked perfectly well, letters or no letters. The world tilted a reason on this earth to retire a good tool over what had been carved into it once upon a time. The world tilted sideways was a Tuesday morning, roasting day, same as the day I'd proposed all those years back. Though I only clocked that afterward, when Mia grabbed it off the rack without thinking. The world tilted sideways, the grounds down, locked it into the group head, and pulled the first long black of the day. Steam came up off the cup in a thin curl. The world tilted sideways, and the machine hissed the same way it's hissed every morning for 6 years, and neither of us said a word about whose name used to be on the handle in her hand. The world tilted sideways because there wasn't one there to notice anymore. I stood out the front for a minute after that, the way I do most mornings, tapping the worn toe of my boot against the step. The world tilted sideways, watching the eucalypts down the street shiver in the wind, and for the first time in 6 months I wasn't thinking about Charlotte at all. The world tilted sideways. I was thinking about the beans I still had to load into the roaster and whether Bill Trentham would want his usual, and whether the day was going to warm up like the forecast said. The world hence the part and nobody warns you about, mate, not the blow up, not the tears, not even the leaving. It's the ordinary Tuesday on the other side of it. The world tilted sideways that used to carry both your names just carries the coffee, same as it always should have. The realize you've been standing here the whole time without noticing exactly when it stopped hurting to hold it. I still find myself picking that portafilter up sometimes mid-shift. The world tilted subtle reason at all, just turning it over the way you'd turn over a coin in your pocket. There's a groove where an S used to be, mine, and a groove where a C used to be, hers, and now they're just 2 shallow dips in the metal. The world tilted sideways, smoothed by steam and grounds in Mia's hands and the next person's hands after that, whoever they turn out to be. I could've had it re-engraved. Bill Trentham's brother does laser work, does it cheap. Offered more than once, I never took him up on it. The world tilters are something almost decent about the way it wore off instead of being cut off. Nobody sat down one afternoon and scratched Charlotte's initial out of spite. It just went. The way things go when life keeps happening on top of them. One long black at a time, one Tuesday roast at a time. The one morning you look down and the thing that used to mean everything just means a good, honest tool that does its job. I ran into her at the IGA a few months back of all places. The world tilted sideways, standing in the queue with baskets, and it wasn't strange the way I thought it might be. She looked tired in the ordinary way people look tired from actual work, not the performed kind. The world tilted sideways, and she asked how the shop was going, and I asked how Bill's clinic was treating her, and she said the worming tablet questions never stop, and we both laughed, a real laugh, small and easy. The word we paid for our shopping and went our separate ways down the car park. The world tilted sideways. I didn't feel triumphant about it. That's the part I want to be clear about. Standing there in the car park afterward, watching her walk to a car that wasn't the Corolla she'd slept in. The world just felt the thing you feel when a bone finally sets. Not relief exactly, more the absence of a pain you'd stopped noticing was there. The portafilter's still on the machine. The world tilted sideways still gets used every single day, first order to last. Maya doesn't think twice about it anymore, and neither most mornings do I. It's just the handle you grab when you're pulling a shot. The world tilted sideways in the shape of every hand that's held it since mine included hers once, and whoever's turn it is next.